The church was somber, filled with the soft hum of mourners and the faint scent of lilies. I sat in the front pew, clutching the folded flag the military honor guard had handed me. My husband, James, a man of integrity and warmth, had served his country with distinction. His loss had ripped a hole in my heart that I could scarcely fathom. The last 5 years of our life together had been tumultuous, not because of James, but because of his mother, Eleanor. She had disowned him the day we married. "You've ruined your life," she had declared, her voice sharp and unyielding. She never forgave him for choosing me, a woman she deemed unworthy of her son's love, over the polished, affluent woman she had handpicked. When she walked into the church that morning, the air seemed to shift. Heads turned, whispers buzzed, and my chest tightened. Dressed in black with her chin held high, Eleanor's presence commanded attention. Her gaze was sharp as it locked onto mine, and for a moment, it felt like all the years of pain and rejection she'd inflicted resurfaced in one piercing glance. She marched up the aisle, ignoring the murmurs around her, and stopped right in front of me. "This funeral is a sham," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Gasps echoed through the room. My fingers tightened around the flag, and I stood, meeting her glare. "This is not the time, Eleanor," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "James deserves peace." Her lips curled into a bitter smile. "Peace? You think you can give him peace? You have no right to mourn him. You were a mistake in his life, a stain on his legacy." The room went silent, except for the distant hum of the organ. My body trembled, not with fear, but with anger. Before I could respond, Eleanor's voice cut through again. "Before we go any further with this charade, we need to discuss his finances. My son had responsibilities, assets that belonged to his family, his real family. This is neither the time nor the place," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "If you want to talk about his estate, we can do it later. Right now, we are here to honor James's memory." Eleanor's face twisted with disdain. "You think you're in charge now? You're nothing. Just a widow, clinging to what isn't yours. James's money, his name, even his love, none of it was ever truly yours." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I couldn't give her the satisfaction. "James chose me," I said, my voice breaking, but resolute. "He loved me. And despite everything, he tried to love you too. But you pushed him away. You chose your pride over your son." Her face froze for a moment, as if my words had struck a nerve. Then, with a sharp turn, she faced the crowd. "If anyone here thinks this woman has the right to handle James's affairs, speak now. As his mother, I have the final say." A murmur spread through the attendees. Some looked away, unwilling to engage. Others whispered among themselves. But then, a voice rang out, "You've got some nerve, Eleanor." Everyone turned to see James's best friend, Marcus, standing near the back of the church. He stepped forward, his tall frame imposing as he walked down the aisle. James loved his wife. He loved her more than anything in this world. "And you threw that love away because it didn't fit your plans." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "This is a family matter, Marcus." "Stay out of it, family?" Marcus scoffed. "You abandoned your family the moment you disowned James. You have no right to stand here and demand anything." The tension in the room was palpable. Eleanor's face flushed, and for a moment, I thought she might leave. But instead, she straightened her spine and looked at me. "This isn't over," she said, her voice low but filled with venom. "We will settle this." She turned on her heel and marched out of the church, leaving a trail of whispers in her wake. I sank back into the pew, my body trembling. Marcus sat beside me, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Don't let her ruin this day," he said softly. "James wouldn't want that." I nodded, clutching the flag tighter. The service continued, a bittersweet tribute to the man who had been my everything. As the final notes of Amazing Grace filled the air, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. James was gone, but his love remained, a constant light in the darkness. The confrontation with Eleanor didn't end there. 2 days later, I received a call from her lawyer, demanding a meeting to discuss James's estate. Reluctantly, I agreed, knowing I couldn't avoid it forever. The meeting took place in a sterile conference room, the table long and cold under the fluorescent lights. Eleanor sat at one end, her demeanor icy, while I sat at the other, flanked by my own attorney. The tension was thick as the lawyers went over the details of James's will. James left everything to his wife, my lawyer said, his voice steady. His assets, his business interests, and his personal belongings. Eleanor's face turned red. That's impossible. My son would never leave me out of his will. The will is clear, my lawyer replied, sliding a copy across the table. James's wishes were unambiguous. She snatched the document and scanned it, her eyes narrowing with each line she read. Finally, she threw it down on the table. "This is your doing," she hissed, glaring at me. "You manipulated him." I took a deep breath, meeting her gaze. "James made his own decisions, Eleanor. He was his own man, he was weak," she snapped. "And you took advantage of that." Her words stung, but I refused to let her see it. "You can't change what's in that will," I said, my voice firm. "James wanted me to have everything because he trusted me to honor his memory and his wishes." Eleanor's hands trembled as she clenched them into fists. "You may have won this battle," she said, her voice low and seething, "but mark my words, I'll find a way to make you pay." With that, she stood and stormed out, leaving me alone with my lawyer. I let out a shaky breath, the weight of the confrontation settling heavily on my shoulders. "You handled that well," my lawyer said. "She's grasping at straws," I nodded, but the encounter had drained me. Eleanor's hatred was a relentless force, and I knew this wouldn't be the last time I'd have to face her. Over the following weeks, I immersed myself in settling James's affairs. His will was straightforward, but dealing with Eleanor's constant interference made the process exhausting. She filed frivolous legal challenges, spread rumors about me in the community, and even showed up uninvited at my home, demanding her share of James's legacy. Despite everything, I held my ground. I knew that honoring James meant standing firm against the chaos his mother tried to unleash. And slowly, the tide began to turn. Friends and family who had once been silent started to rally around me, offering support and solidarity. One evening, as I sat on the porch with Marcus, sipping tea and watching the sunset, he turned to me and said, "James would be proud of you." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. "I just want to do right by him." "You are," he said. "And don't let anyone, not even Eleanor, make you doubt that." As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of closure begin to take root. Eleanor might never accept me, and she might never stop trying to undermine me, but I had something she couldn't take away: the love and memories I shared with James. And in the end, that was all that truly mattered.